Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Lainey. Thank you so much for stopping by. In today's video, I'm going to be talking about my top palettes for fall. So if you're interested in seeing that, then just keep on watching. Before we get into that though, if you're new here, please remember to hit that subscribe button so you never miss another video from me, and let's hop into the video. Alright, so this video has been on my list for a very long time. I've done one of these before. I believe it was in 2020. I don't think I did one for 2021, but I'm back and we are going to be doing my top palettes for fall for 2022. I'm also planning on doing a top fall indie singles video, and I can do blush and lipstick if you guys are interested in seeing that as well, because I love fall. I love all the fall tones. I could wear them all year long. But let's hop into the video. I have a basket full of eyeshadows that I've had sitting back there in that cube organizer for a while, waiting for me to film this video. So let's start with the first few palettes. So this video is actually in no particular order, but if I could only pick one palette, it would be this one. This is my Menagerie Nocturnal palette. I believe they're doing a small restock of this, and then it will only be available as singles. But this is, first off, the best thing I purchased all year. Mine did come broken, so it's a little bit messy, but it is my favorite fall color story of all time. It's so unique. I feel like it is so unique for a fall color story. I love the grungy tones mixed with the pops of like purple and blue. I just think it's super, super fun. And I have reached for this so many times since I've gotten it. And I wore this yesterday and I got a lot of compliments on my look. And it's just like, if I could only pick one palette right now, it would be this palette. It's absolutely gorgeous. I love the shimmers. I love the mattes. I'm really looking forward to trying more from Menagerie. It's a absolutely stunning palette. The next palette I have for this is the Beauty Bay Wilderness palette. Now, you can't get this anymore, but they do have some palettes that have similar vibes to this, like the greens. I don't know if it's called the greens. Earthy, maybe? I don't know. Anyway, this is the Beauty Bay Wilderness palette. I snatched this up at the beginning of this year, I believe. I bought it on the restock, and it is just absolutely gorgeous. When I think of fall, I think of like these two rows, but I love the pops of blue. I feel like that's really nice for like late fall, early winter. And I absolutely love the Beauty Bay shimmer formula. The matte formula is not my favorite, but it is workable, and really the star of the show are the shimmers in my opinion. I already have one pan in this palette. I am working on pan in the shade Leaf over here, and as you can see, I have quite a few dips going on in this palette. This red one is from when I scraped some out of it for Duraline, but this palette is absolutely stunning, and if they ever bring it back, I would recommend snatching it up when you can. Next up, I have a stack of Menagerie palettes. Now, some of these, they're discontinuing. Some of these, they have said they're discontinuing, but it's still in stock. One of them, I know they're revamping, so if it's available, I would snatch it up. The Feral palette, I know they're restocking one more time, and then they're discontinuing it, which is a shame because this is my favorite palette from them. It is just absolutely gorgeous. I have one pan in it. This shadow Hukura is very close to hitting pan. I love the mix of colors in this palette. I feel like it's really interesting, but also cohesive at the same time. I love this shade up here. I believe it's Wolfling. Yeah, it's such a stunning duochrome. I love these greens. I love this blue, and this gray is really, really versatile. It was the first Menagerie pan I've hit pan in, and I just absolutely love their matte formula. Their shimmer formula is good. It's not my favorite, but it is pretty good. But their palettes tend to lean matte heavy anyway, so I like that. And yeah, it's just all around a great palette. I would highly recommend, if you've been thinking about this palette, to pick it up when they do restock it, because they're not going to be bringing it back. I don't know if the singles will still be available. They've done that before where they've discontinued palettes but kept the singles. So I absolutely love the Feral palette. It is a shame that it will no longer be available. The next one I want to talk about is Whale Song. If you love grungy blues and greens, this is the palette for you. It stains, so just be warned of that, but that literally does not bother me. This is what the palette looks like. It is stunning. I love these grungy murky tones. The blues are absolutely phenomenal. The only thing I think I would change is like change this color to like a blue iridescent or something. But this palette in Fluke is just a really, really pretty tone of green. I love this palette. As you can see, I've got a couple dips going on in the blues. It's a fantastic blue grungy green dream. It is a fantastic palette. Again, I don't know the status of this one because I thought they were discontinuing all their older palettes, but it's been restocking for a while. I don't know if they're just trying to use up packaging or what, but this is another phenomenal palette. And the last one I believe they said they're revamping is the Colourpop palette. This is their neutral palette. This shadow I did change out for another shadow of theirs. This is their single shadow Animal Kingdom. I just felt like this shimmer and this shimmer were pretty similar, so I changed them out. This has wonderful, wonderful yellow tones, but I love the pop of green, blue, and then this like kind of like brown toned purple. Sorry if you can hear Scooter snoring in the background, by the way. But I love this for using my more neutral indie single shadows, using the mattes and then topping it off with my indie single shimmers. But I love this palette. If I'm going for a neutral palette, this is probably what I'm going for. It is really, really nice, and I'm excited to see the revamped version. I believe I saw that they are going to keep with the square pans for that. I would be interested in picking up the singles potentially, depending on what the shimmers are and the matte changes. Because I love this palette and I'd like to see what they're improving upon it. I realized I was missing one Menagerie palette from that stack. Menagerie, I realize these are all my Menagerie palettes, but Menagerie is one of my favorite brands, particularly for their mattes. The next one I wanted to mention is my Flight Club palette. This is a really nice purple palette, and I just feel like these are very fall-esque purples rather than spring purples. I love this palette. It has a lot of shimmers, I feel like, compared to my other Menagerie palettes, but they're really, really pretty duochromes, and I really love the mattes in this, and it's just a really great palette, and I'm excited to play with this more this fall. Now I have one Colourpop palette to mention. You can't get it anymore, and also I know, like myself, a lot of people are probably trying to stay away from Colourpop because they decided to do a collaboration with a turf. So I personally don't recommend purchasing. You know, you can purchase from them, you know, you can do what you want with your money. I'm taking a break from Colourpop for now, but one of my favorite fall palettes of all time. If you have it and you haven't touched it in a while, I highly recommend bringing it for a sight. This is probably one of my favorite palettes in my collection. The formula is absolutely phenomenal. I like that there's only 2 shimmers because that means I can use my indie single shimmers with it. I have a lot of grungy tones that I feel like work with this palette really well. I have 3 pans in this palette. 2 of them were in projects. This one was on its own. I have a little bit of a dip going in this shade right now. And I can't wait to hit more pans on this palette. It's a really beautiful palette, so if you have this palette, you know, dust it off and get some use on it this fall because it's a gorgeous color story. Next up on the list, I have my Blend Bunny Surge palette. I am in love with the Blend Bunny Surge formula, and this palette is just a grungy dream. I don't love the shimmers in this palette. But the neons, I really like the pop of neons. I don't have neons in my collection aside from these, so it's really nice to have that for a pop of color. I love how deep the rose go, and this is kind of very similar to how I build a look in a sense. I mean, I would maybe switch these out for like an iridescent shade or like a better shadow formula, but what I love about this palette is how I typically build my looks is I usually use 2 matte shadows, but I'll use similar colors like I did for this look. I did film a Get Ready With Me. I don't know if it's up already. But I will do like this light purple and then this deep purple and then a shimmer on the lid. Maybe if I'm feeling a little bit vampy, I'll use the deeper matte and then I do a shimmer and an iridescent shade on the lid and call it a day. So this palette makes it really easy. I love that Blend Bunny does their colors in rows a lot of the time. It just makes it easier for me because, especially because I do monochromatic looks a lot of the time, it just makes building an eyeshadow look even just easier. So this is the only Blend Bunny palette I have, but I really, really like it, and I am eyeing the Blends palette for Black Friday. So yeah, I highly recommend this palette if you've been thinking about picking it up. The next palette you unfortunately cannot get anymore, but I could not do a fall video without mentioning it, and that is my Lunar Beauty Moonspell palette. One of my favorite palettes of all time. It is a shame this palette was limited edition. I mean, I get why it is, but This is the original Moonspell palette. I have the other one, but I wouldn't consider it super fall. But this palette is just a stunner. I love the packaging. The formula is incredible. It's very difficult to show on camera because of the reflective packaging. But I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pans in this palette. I am aiming, I think I'm gonna try to hit pan in all of the shadows next year. And the shimmers are wonderful. The mattes are super great. There's a couple satins in here, which I don't mind. They're not my favorite formula, but I like to use satins either on the outer corner, or I like to mix them with Duraline, and it just like Duraline like brings out the shimmeriness in them, and I like using that as like a winged liner. But overall, I absolutely love this color story. Greens and purples are like my tones, so I really, really love it. And I also really like this silvery shade, silvery grungy taupe shade called Mary in the middle. It's called Mary. It's not Mary in the middle. But this is just one of my favorite palettes, and it is a palette I will keep forever because I love the packaging. It's fantastic. Now we're getting down to the end. I have a lot of one-off brands. So one palette, well, I don't particularly love the formula. I do see it as pretty fall, and that is the Smoke Sessions palette from Melt. I love the grungy tones in here, especially these gold tones too. I'd say like minus these two at the end, like this is a fantastic grungy fall dream. It's not my favorite formula, but I can make it work, and it just, aside from these two at the end, just scream fall to me. Another neutral palette I really enjoy for fall is the Urban Decay Naked Honey palette. This is kind of, a lot of people say like this is a standout from the Naked collection. It is just kind of golden honey tones, and I really like this for the fall in particular. And it's just a really nice, easy palette to use. I got this 50% off. Never buy a Naked palette. Oh my god. Never buy a Naked palette at full price because eventually you will be able to get it half off. But I really, really enjoy this color story, and it is a fun one for fall. Another palette I enjoy for fall is, this is Musée Beauty, but they are now Kyla Beauty. This is the Van Gogh palette. It is a really pretty 9-pan that I really like the color story because I feel like this, stop focusing. I feel like all of the shadows go together really, really well. It's a cohesive color story, but you can get so many different looks out of it because it's not monochromatic. You have blues, you have a green, you have like the yellow tones. It's just a stunning palette, and it's just a great color story for fall, and it's cohesive and really easy to use. The shimmers are really nice. The mattes blend beautifully. I really love this Musée Beauty, Kyla Beauty palette. Next up, I have a Glam Shop palette. I don't know if this is still in stock anymore, but this is the Burgundy palette. And as the name suggests, it's a really nice burgundy fall palette. The mattes in here are really nice. And then these two shimmers in particular are kind of the Turbo Glow formula. So they're really, really nice and sparkly, and just a really fun shadow to use. So if you're looking for more burgundy tones in the fall, this one is for you. And last but certainly not least, we have the BH Cosmetics Smitten in Switzerland palette. This was the only palette I was able, this one and the Mimosa palette, which I didn't buy, are the only two palettes I've been able to find at TJ Maxx for BH. I was on the hunt for Blueberry Muffin and Avocado Toast and could not find them, unfortunately. But I did pick up this Switzerland palette, which I had been eyeing for a while. And this is just a really nice color story, and I'm really impressed with the formula. This is the only, aside from the Take Me Back to Brazil palette, which I declared because I hated the formula, this is the only other BH palette I've used, and I'm super impressed. I'm intrigued to know what the formula is like. I know they came out with a bunch of quads that haven't gotten the greatest reviews, but I'm curious to see if their formula in this palette comes back in the travel palettes. Anyway, this is a nice color story. I mean, if you can find it, I highly recommend picking it up if you can find it in TJ Maxx or wherever you can find BH. But I am excited to pull this out for fall as well. All right, you guys, my lighting is starting to get a lot gloomy, so I'm gonna wrap it up here. These are all my favorite palettes for fall. They're great formulas for the most part, great color stories, and I'm really excited to play with them this fall. I can wear fall tones all year long, but I feel like they really shine at this time of year. So I'm really, really excited for it. Let me know your favorite fall palettes down below. I also had pre-ordered the Colored Rain Safari Rain palette. It hasn't shipped yet, but I'm really excited to use that this fall as well. And yeah, I'm really excited. I'm gonna do a indie single kind of grungy fall shimmers kind of video, and then if you guys are interested in a blush and a lipstick video, I could do that as well because I just love fall time this year. I have some BYOPs planned as well, so it's going to be a fun time this fall. That is all I have for you today. I hope you enjoyed. As always, thank you so much for watching. Please remember to like and subscribe, leave a comment if you like down below, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye!